In this video, Marshall will build two shelters, one on a high tree branch like a beehive, the other on the root of a large tree. Marshall builds his first shelter on the leaning branch of a tree. This shelter will be quite high above the ground. Marshall hammers the logs one by one to create a solid frame. This frame will soon be lifted into a tree branch several meters above. This is the most risky step in the shelter, because this skeleton must support both its own weight and the entire structure it will soon add. Because the shelter is located at a height, a temporary ladder was necessary to facilitate construction. Marshall can now untie the ropes he tied. However, even though the shelter's frame is solid, there's always risk. In many parts of the world, people built their shelters in trees rather than on the ground to protect themselves from predators. Wolves, jackals, and boars are ground-bound animals. They can smell, but they cannot climb to a high platform. Marshall began weaving the body of the shelter. He weaved small branches together to form both the floor and the side walls. This place is now turning into a real shelter. Such a platform on a gently sloping tree provides a sleeping place that is both safe and warmer during the night. Now, Marshall is preparing his own natural mortar to clad the shelter. These grasses will fiberize in the mud, acting as a binder. The same technique is seen in the walls of huts in Africa, in the plaster of goatskin tents in Central Asia, and even in the cladding of mud houses in the Amazon. Marshall is now building a mud stove for cooking. Mushroom lovers will be drooling. Marshall places a small tin stove inside the shelter. This is one of the safest ways to stay warm at night. He completely removed the ladder he had temporarily set up. Now he climbs into the shelter only by using a rope. Marshall spends the night in his warm shelter. Although the sound of wolves in the forest at night makes him nervous, Marshall is in a sheltered place. Now we're moving on to building the second shelter. This one is quite interesting too, because he will make a secret shelter among the roots of a giant tree. Some hunting societies practice this. When natural pits formed in the roots of large trees, he would turn them into mini shelters. These types of secret shelters were preferred in forests where wolves, bears, and boars were active. Marshall clears the natural space between the giant tree's roots. This space is filled with years of accumulated rotting leaves and soil, but it actually holds the potential for a perfect hideout. The natural structure of the roots will provide it with a solid wall and roof. One of the biggest problems with root shelters in ancient forest communities was dampness and cold. That's why hunters always raised the ground with wooden grates like this. Marshall will now build a door at the entrance of the shelter. Small enclosed spaces accumulate heat very quickly. The root cavity keeps the warm air inside very well because its walls are made of natural fibrous bark. Shelter doors are always made of materials that match the surrounding area. This method is one of the most effective ways to survive, especially in areas where predators are concentrated. Marshall sets up his little tin stove. This stove may be his favorite material. Marshall is now covering the entire exterior of the shelter with mud. This coating makes the shelter more protected. When the mud dries, it will take on the same color as the root structure. The mud coating also masks the shelter's scent trail. Wild animals can't easily detect the pungent human scent in the mud. Marshall brews hot tea and relieves his tiredness. Marshall is now preparing dinner in his secret bunker after a long day. A warm meal in nature doesn't just fill you up, it regulates your body temperature, restores energy, and boosts your spirits during long days. When Marshall goes out to collect firewood, the silence is suddenly shattered. He encounters a wild boar wandering through the forest. Marshall immediately runs towards the secret bunker. Then the pig also picks up speed, and after a few seconds it arrives at the shelter door. Marshall's YouTube channel is called Craft. There are many more adventures and incredible projects on this channel. You can find the channel links in the description.